Hello, Mzansi. I hope everybody is doing well on this seventh day. It's been quite an interesting day for us, and I know that myself personally, I've been struggling a little bit with the walls closing in on me. I might have to go for a run around the block after this one. We were supposed to have Joey Evans on the show at 6 o'clock this evening, and unfortunately, due to personal circumstances, Joey is not going to be able to join us. But we have been blessed with another superstar, Hall of Famer, and an author who's just written a book, which is called, bear with me one second, which is called Virus Proof Your Small Business. Joining me and us tonight is Douglas Kruger, who's going to be taking us through some of the stuff that he's been doing and a couple of ideas about how to ride through the storm that we're all in at the moment. So without further ado, let me introduce us. Douglas, how are you going, my friend?
Very good, thanks, and a pleasure to be with you.
Fantastic, lovely to have you. So it's quite important to note that Douglas's book has been published by Penguin Publishers, and the book is actually going global. It's in a couple of weeks from now, it's going to be published in the US and in the United Kingdom. So we are great with some wonderful talent here. Douglas, tell us a little bit about how things are going for you currently during this challenging time we're in.
Oh, no, thank you. If you hear dinosaur noises from a 3-year-old coming through in the background, that will be the full answer of how I am. We're actually doing very well, thank you. And in terms of the book, you know, the last couple of weeks have been a blur. It was 2 Wednesdays ago when Penguin got hold of me and they said, look, we have this idea, we want to do something that helps entrepreneurs. How fast could you write it? And the entire book was written between 2 Wednesdays. And I mean, that's got to be some kind of record, if not for the writing, for the amount of coffee intake. And the wonderful thing about it is people contributed ideas from around the world. I just went onto social media and I said, here's the plan, here's the goal. We're trying to help people. Send us your concepts, your insights, your strategy. And we had people writing in from Croatia, from Texas, from Australia, Israel, all over South Africa, all over the world. And that made my life as an author so much easier because the research simply came to me.
So 2 weeks has definitely got to be some sort of a record. I'd imagine that these are entrepreneurs and well-established business minds that are all sort of helped contribute towards this.
Yeah, great mix. So we had people who are professors from the business world, we had people who are running their own businesses, and we simply had individuals who noticed something clever that someone did. And they sent me the story, I extracted the principle, and what we did is I turned it into 50 ways to. So the subtitle of the book is 50 Ways to Survive the COVID Crisis. And it begins with a psychological idea, then goes into practical planning. But the whole book really hinges on one simple principle. And I think this is quite a good one in terms of getting your mind oriented. If you're feeling dazed and baffled and dizzied by what's going on around you, the heart and soul of business survival is profitability over cost. And that one thing becomes your guiding mantra. And of course, what happens in a scenario like this is most people tend to focus on the cost side of the equation. Now that's important, but it's not the full picture because it's entirely possible to conserve your way into the grave. You've also got to bring in some cash flow. So we look at both sides of that equation, and that makes up 50 separate ideas.
That's fascinating. So what do we say to people that have got businesses that are heavily geared towards a tangible product that needs to be sold? There's logistical issues, there's distribution challenges. Yeah. What do we say to people that have got these sort of businesses? I mean, how do we get their minds around something like this?
Absolutely. And the very first chapter would be a psychological idea, which is make the decision to fight for it. Because I think what happens under this kind of stress and under panic and uncertainty, our first gut reaction really is often to kind of shut down and wait and see. And that is not the best thing we can do. Step number 1, make the determined choice to fight for it because your business matters. And we can go quite deep on this idea. I mean, it matters for your family. It matters for your immediate income. It matters on a human level. There's a writer who's a cognitive psychologist named Steven Pinker. And he says there has been no greater peacekeeping force in human history than trade. It's one of the most important things we do. So, you know, even if you do something novel, you create party balloons and you think, well, it's not important right now. It is part of the building block of human fabric, human society, human economics. It's part of why we're able to educate our kids and to do more than the generation before us. So step number 1, determine that what you do matters. Then we need to look at some very practical things that you can do. For instance, if there is no option of moving products right now, if you are simply, you're dead in the water, then you need to ask clever questions like, can you sell vouchers for the future? I'll give you a simple example of this one. Say you are, you do dog grooming. We've got a mobile dog grooming service in our area. You could, for example, sell a voucher for a few weeks, even a few months from now, and a lot of people are actually looking for ways to support small businesses and to support their community. That could help you with the cash flow, even if you can't deliver right now. Must tell you, I had a remarkable example as well, where an industry association, this is the group that does the annual events, that does the annual awards and so on, they found themselves in a horrible predicament because the events industry has been probably the hardest hit. It's travel and events for last place. And what happened was a number of the leading people within that industry contacted them. And they said, listen, you've taken in fees for the event, you've taken in fees for prize money, keep it. Keep it so that you remain solvent, so that the industry exists next year. I thought that was a remarkably generous thing to do.
That's a fantastic idea. You know, earlier on in the week, I was talking to Mark Abel, and we were discussing the idea of these really small businesses. You've got a guy that's at the airport, he shines shoes. You've got a guy that's got a small coffee shop. All of these businesses have been heavily impacted by this shutdown. And we were toying with the idea of actually going towards or setting something up where guys could still sell their service, a virtual service. People could still purchase the service. And maybe claim the purchase a little bit later. I think that's definitely one of the ways that we can start looking towards just creating sustainability, because we can't afford to our economy to start to stand stagnant. And I think that's the greatest challenge that we have right now. I mean, let's talk about assume that we come out of lockdown on the 21st as planned.
As planned.
That doesn't 16th, sorry. That doesn't mean that our economy is just automatically going to switch on and we're enjoying this. Let's talk about that.
You know, it's so fascinating because I watched a couple of Facebook arguments today. I'd love to say discussions, but they weren't, about this idea of, oh, we need to take care of people and sort of economy be damned. And I think there's such a basic flaw in that thinking. When we use the word economy, people who are not familiar with the term think, well, you're talking about money. No, we're not. We're talking about the work we do, the value we raise, the ability to feed our families, all of that. It's interconnected. And this idea that the economy can be put to one side is akin to saying, we don't mind if people starve tomorrow as long as we can solve a problem today. There's something very wrong with that thinking. Economies are not systems. They're you and me. They're human beings and our ability to live. So to my mind, I think the economic one is possibly the bigger threat to humanity. And I think it's deeply uncompassionate not to focus on that one. It's going to matter greatly in the future. So yes, you're right. If we come out of this on our 22-day time period, we need people still to be solvent. And there again, there are practical things that you can do. For example, if you are still being paid by your debtors, can you pay your creditors? Can you surprise the living daylights out of them by actually passing on the payments that are due and making sure everybody remains solvent? That's ideally what we're after. Best case scenario for almost all businesses right now is, are you available online? And there are practical things you can look at there as well. If you haven't been doing your business online, chances are you still have a website. So port of call number one, and I'd like you to do this evening, go onto your website and see if it's working. It is surprising how often our websites have a problem in the background. There's something that isn't functioning properly, and we are not aware of it. The next thing is, please answer the form responses from your website. I've always been amazed at how poor businesses are at getting back to you when you send them an email off their site. That was unacceptable before. It is unforgivable now. So there are many practical things that we can do in order to just make sure things keep flowing. If you can do business online, that's one of the big ones.
That's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've just joined us, we're talking to Douglas Kruger. He is a Hall of Fame speaker and author of the Virus Proof Your Small Business book, which has been published by Penguin Publishers, and it's going international. So fascinating. He was just telling us that we've had people from all over the world actually contributing, and this book went from infant stages to going out to publishing within a matter of 2 weeks. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the book was written in 1 week, and in a week from now it'll be out. So just interesting logistics on that one. In South Africa, we can't do the paperback at the the moment because people can't go to work.
That's right.
So what they're going to do here is they will do the ebook launch first. And in countries around the world where they can print, they will. Otherwise, they'll simply go straight to ebook. So that's just an example of how they're trying to adapt to the scenario.
Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, just before we carry on, if you would like to ask us questions, this is a live session. So if you have any questions about your business, if you have any concerns, please send them to us and we can actually discuss them on the platform. So let's go back to talking about online business. I mean, how many tangible ways are there to take your business online? I mean, fully online in a situation like this?
Yes. Okay. I tell you what, I'll give you a similar but subtly better question, which is how else could you do business? And I think that's the one we need to be asking right now. If you have the possibility of going online, that is ideal. For a lot of businesses, it is simply not possible. What they do cannot be done that way. So then what we want to do is you want to ask yourself, what other forms of value can you offer? And when you really start brainstorming around this one, there are endless creative ways of thinking about it. And I'll give you one. Now, this is an idea shared by Jason Borovich, and he provided some wonderful ideas in terms of how you rethink your business structure. And I think one of the most radical ones, it doesn't sound radical when you say it, but when you unpack it, you start to see how much it is the idea, serve your customers. Now, serving your customers does not sound like a crazy out-of-the-box recalibration of a business, but consider, if you had to put what you currently do off the table, and you had to study your customers and ask, what do they need right now? And then answer that question. I would say that a management team could spend a day or two simply brainstorming the answer to that. What do your customers need right now that is not what you supplied before? And by thinking around that, you could totally reconfigure what you do. Now, there are other ways in which you can try to find the core value. A useful thought exercise goes like this. If, for example, you've spent, imagine you inherit a plot of land, and it is stony land, it is unfertile land, and you've been trying to farm on it for generations. Could you be sitting on a fortune if you simply thought, we're not a farm, we're a quarry? Now, here's how Pixar did that, for example. Pixar, when they started off, they believed that they sold computer parts. And they also, incidentally, made little video animations for companies on the side. Somewhere down the line, they realized that they were trying to farm on what should have been a quarry. And they switched tracks and they realized that animation was actually what was valuable about what they do. So you can think radically about this one. You can say, what parts of our business might be sold, or what core skills do we have that might be employed in different ways? For instance, if you have highly skilled, highly competent staff, programmers, accountants, people who are able to do something on a very skilled level, you may not be able to serve your current customers in the current way, but how else could those skills be redeployed? And that's how you need to be thinking right now. You can even bring it down to the most simple level. If you are doing something online, do you have a digital tip jar? Right now, again, people are looking for ways to support businesses because we know that that matters. If you have a digital tip jar, your people can earn more. So there are always ways in which you can reconfigure your value and think about your business differently.
So let's expand on that a little bit. I mean, just for the layman like myself, a digital tip jar, what is that exactly?
Yes, I've never done one myself, but this is one of the wonderful ideas submitted to us. So let's take a simple example. There are online programs like, if you could go to a website like Fiverr.com, that's spelled Fiverr.com, and you can order things like video animations, you can order certain types of digital work. If you like what the person has done, in addition to the fee that you have agreed to in advance, you can also give a digital tip. So if the person has blown you away with the quality of your work, of their work, you have the option of doing that. Now, of course, it does mean you're going to have to get the infrastructure by which to be able to do that. That employs someone else and it helps your people. So great way to do it. That's just a practical example of how you might go about it. Now, Fiverr is just one example of where your people could actually be doing their work right now, offering things on a global level.
That is just remarkable, right? I think maybe I'm wrong here, but surely the consulting has got to be a fantastic way for us to be making money right now. I mean, it's a great way for us to be taking our services, putting those services online. We can use tools like Zoom and like all the other digital platforms that we have right now to be able to communicate skills and pass those skills over for a nominal fee at volume, at scale.
Spot on. It is really an ideal time. I mean, people have downtime, and one of the chapters in the book is I say, how do you use this downtime strategically? And one possibility for you, particularly if you're a corporate organization, is you could get your people to come to you with their study proposals. You might either offer to fund the proposal, the studying, or you might send them in the direction of one of these massive online free university courses that are available globally, or they could simply come to you with a set of YouTube videos they're going to watch in order to learn how to increase their leadership skills, public speaking skills, sales skills, and so forth. And I chuck into that mix there that Forbes identified public speaking skills as the #1 pathway to higher earning and to higher wealth on a personal level. So if there's anything you wanted to study right now, public speaking might very well be top of the list. It just plays into so many things. So yeah, just quick examples of the clever things that we can do right now. Now, to come back to what you mentioned about thought leadership, there is also there are opportunities and dangers. The opportunity is now is the right time for thought leadership. The danger is, and everyone's doing it. So how many emails have you received today with a headline like COVID-19 crisis update? I must have received about 60 of the things today. So that's not carrying the weight anymore. Everyone is doing it. You need to be a lot more specific than that. So let's take, we'll stick with the public speaking example. Say that you are a Toastmasters club and you teach presentation skills. You're not going to send out an email saying COVID-19 update. You're going to say 4 things you can do right now to keep your presentation skills at their premium during this lockdown. It's specific, it gets right to the point. It doesn't sum up world history as though people don't know what's going on. It offers value quickly. Now, staying again with the thought leadership idea, you may not be able to sell things right now. Depending on your industry, you may not have the option of actually making a profit right at this point in time. But there are some clever organizations, and LinkedIn springs to mind, Adobe springs to mind, who are doing these massive free online trials. Now, this is genius from several perspectives. They're saying, while you're in lockdown, and particularly if you're a student, our product is free. Go for it. You don't have to pay a cent. The genius in that is that it is essentially, it is a massive global free trial of their product. And for a lot of people, that A, solves a problem. So there's something actually quite noble about it. But B, it is unlikely that they will leave your product afterwards. And bonus points for people who are receiving charitable mention in the media for doing things like that. So it is a very clever thing, and it's an option available to you right now.
It's such a good idea because, you know, that enables you to build up a monstrosity of a database. You become dependent on that product because you get used to the way that product works. And then all of a sudden, boom, the fees kick in and that's it. You know, do you decide to walk away from it or do you continue?
Yes.
What are your chances?
And in some cases, and particularly in the digital world, it costs you nothing to do it. Another one that springs to mind is the Audible platform. I'm a massive fan of audiobooks. I mean, everywhere that I go, I'm listening to audiobooks. Yeah, like in the shower, on the phone, uninteresting lovemaking sessions, you name it. And I find that what you can do is you can increase your knowledge greatly as a result of just the sort of freedom to move about. Now, what they've said is kids listen free during the crisis. And again, the genius of that, it costs them nothing. The production costs are already covered. So it is a digital download, and that's all.
Phenomenal stuff. Going back to talking about the entertainment industry, I mean, we've had a couple of entertainers coming onto the show, and these guys are really sort of being tested to the limits. Stand-up comedians, musicians. Yeah. Musicians are a little bit lucky because, you know, in the fact that they've got a tangible product, they can put it onto a platform, they can sell it for $1, whatever the case may be. When it comes to live entertainment and public speaking, I think those guys are being challenged. Although, speaking with some people earlier on today, it seems as though public speaking definitely is something that you can take online. You can use tools like Zoom and all that. But there are certain elements in terms of entertainment that are really battling. I mean, how do those guys sort of, how do they get their way around this?
Yeah, no, it's scary. And I mean, a lot of singers are down from R9 a year to 0. So, I mean, it's, yeah, no, it is tough times. Absolutely. You know, a passing thought in terms of entertainment is just this power of YouTube. I mean, it really is phenomenal. Toward the end of last year, I monetized my YouTube channel, and I'm amazed at how effective that is. You've got guys like, there's a show called Dude Perfect, and that's the name of the show, Dude Perfect, who have got 55 million subscribers. And what do? It's a bunch of college kids throwing basketballs through hoops in unusual and creative ways. Now, these guys are you know, you can't just say living off it. They are making a fortune off of it, because every time someone clicks on one of those videos, there's a little paid advertisement and a portion of the proceeds go to them. So this is possibly a longer term solution, but it is a solution. If you have something entertaining built into what you do, you really should put it onto YouTube and start building up this following. You're not going to get it right overnight. YouTube requires that you have 4,000 watched hours before you are able to monetize a channel. And then they take a look at it and they make sure that there's nothing dodgy about it. And if it qualifies, as long as it's not, you know, it's nothing too dangerous or sort of offensive, they will then monetize the channel. So 4,000 watched hours, and that can be in any configuration. If you've got long videos, it'll be easier to get the hours. If they're shorter ones, you need more views. But if something about what you do is entertaining, there's certainly money to be made there, and it can be made from home. And a tip for anyone wanting to pursue that one is the ideal place to start is in fact YouTube. You simply go on and you say, how do I start a YouTube channel? How do I increase YouTube views? How do I make money from YouTube? There is endless useful content on it, and it's brilliant. It's really good stuff.
The bottom line is take grasp of technology and start making it work for you. That's the bottom line. And we're moving
Absolutely. And the tech is not the point. For people who are terrified of technology, you really do have to remember the technology is not the point at all. Your personality is the strong seller. And there's actually a great example of this one. I use the instance of Sir David Attenborough. If you've ever clicked onto anything on a nature channel, you've heard Sir David Attenborough's voice. He's the guy saying, and the penguin moved across the ice in everything that's ever been made. Now, the other day, I'm driving around in my car. This is before lockdown, and I'm listening to this old comedy show from the BBC in the UK. And they make this joke where they say, there's a lion on the loose, quick, call David Attenborough. And that jumped out at me, and I thought, when was that broadcast? So I went back and I had a look for the date. It was broadcast in 1955. That is when David Attenborough was the legend in that world. 1955. Now think about this. If this was a man who said, I love nature, I'm not interested in technology, then he would not have kept up with the trends. But he didn't particularly get hung up on the nature of the tech. He saw himself as a theme moving through time, which was simply nature. And the tech has just evolved around him, and that's all. So if you have sort of hang-ups about tech, it's not about the tech, it's about what you love. You are at the center of the thing, the tech is incidental, and it's not that hard to learn.
I absolutely love that. You know, you find something that you're good at and let the world develop around you. Let it all evolve around you. It's absolutely fantastic.
And if you have a love for it, someone else out there will as well. And that's a monetizable YouTube channel.
Fantastic. So I just want to digress slightly. We've just hit junk status now. We hear warnings coming from the states that there's that the Federal Reserve might be triggering a housing market crash. Let's talk about, I think a lot of people are living in panic at the moment, you know, but the fact that this junk status is going to collapse us. It's going to be the end of our economy and the end of our country. Let's just put things into perspective and actually let people understand what that means for us going forward.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not an economist, but I'll give you a couple of thoughts on that one. The first and most obvious one is if you're able to do anything that can be sold globally, the worse the economy does, the better you do. That's a cynical truth, but it is a truth. So if, for example, you are writing, publishing, drawing, digitizing, if you have a YouTube channel, for example, all of this fluctuation actually tends to work in your favor. So it is not the end of the world in that sense. It certainly has damaging and detrimental effects on South Africa. But of course, the truth remains, you know, we hit junk status and the sun comes up tomorrow and businesses open and people buy from businesses. And the human needs on the ground floor continue. So, you know, the worst thing we can do is get stuck in panic mode and do nothing. I mean, for example, if you were planning on writing a book yourself, something that was going to position you as an expert in your industry, and now you're watching the news and going, ooh, everything is so uncertain, and you're not writing your book. Well, how is that serving you? Instead, what you should be doing is saying, well, I know by now that the media is 10% my friend and 90% my enemy, and I'm going to get as much info as I need, but I'm also going to get on with doing my work, because there's nothing to be gained by becoming a muppet and throwing your hands up in the air and panicking. It doesn't serve you. Get on with the work, get on with building your reputation. We are also, because we're facing a crisis like this, one of the harsh truths is that not only the dabblers and the chancers in an industry, but often the serious professionals are knocked out of the game as well. And that is a harsh and bitter truth of of such a scenario. It does mean that if you are serving clients faithfully, if you are able to pay your bills, if you're able to keep your people employed, and you keep the lights on and keep shining, at the far end of this, you may have less competition. It is, again, a bittersweet truth, but it is a truth.
So the thing to be taken away from here is everybody just stay calm, stay focused. And I guess you've got to try and scout for the opportunities, because they are there. Look at Zoom. Look at what Zoom has done over these last couple of years. I mean, this is no joke. This company was always relevant, but now you can't do business without them right now. I mean, without them and the likes. Yeah.
I'd be very interested to see YouTube stats as well. I mean, YouTube was a very profitable division of the organization before. I think this will take them through the roof. I'd love to know what the viewership stats have become over the last couple of weeks.
It must be crazy. I know on our side we've had an increase of about 23% just over the last few days on our personal group. So it shows you how many people are actually moving into these platforms now. I think you know, the old TV, the old TV and DSTV and all those sorts of things are fantastic, and they still have a level of relevancy. But in the age of information, where you can just get whatever you want at the click of a button, you know, I think people are much more leaning much more towards being able to access whatever information they want, and also connect with people. Even though they can't do it face to face, there's at least this level that they can connect with people like we're doing right now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Douglas, I have to thank you so much for coming onto the show. It's been insightful. It's been inspirational. Thank you very much. And I'd like to have you on again if you don't mind at some time.
Anytime you'd like. And as I said, there are 50 ideas in the book. We'll share as many as you have the time to hear.
Fantastic, my friend. Take care.
Awesome. Cheers. Thanks so much.